Hopefully there's sound. Hey, there's sound. Look at that. I can't believe it. I fixed it. Okay, we're back. Chat room, can you zoom out that? How about now? How about now? Hey, all right. So let's see. Hi. Sorry, guys. Holy smokes. Pop this chat out. Close the old chat. And there's sound, and we're back and everything. Okay. So if Lady B can hear me in Chicago, okay. Good grief. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, good. Woof. Mm-hmm. Oh boy. And it was going so well. I literally had to carry a computer into the living room or into the kitchen, put it on the counter. Here's my choice of sandwich bags, in case you're wondering which sandwich bags I use. 1 minute, less than a minute. Okay, cool. And yes, there's going to be lots of echo. I apologize. The sound is not going to be optimal. But, you know, what are we going to do? I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay. Oh, my iPad's here. Like, where's my iPad? It has my story. It's a lenticular, Carl. So if you move it, it changes. It wobbles. So. Mm-hmm. All right.
You're listening to the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Video streaming at housesparks.com. I don't care for you. It's like you're crawling out.
Oh my gosh, that was a big run around and stuff. Holy smokes, you guys. What a crazy morning it has been. The show was going so smoothly and so swimmingly, and I was very excited about it. And then literally, I had to move my computer and sound system out of my office and into the kitchen, because not only did the power go out completely in the apartment, and there are workers, by the way, on the street pulling wires and whatnot, but probably because of all the gear that I have, or because the Russians have it out for me, the room, my office, where all my gear is running through and I have my computers running and all that kind of stuff, all the fuses blew, all of them. So I had to go and throw all the, yeah, they're laughing in Russian. Yeah. All of them, all the fuses blew. And then when I went back to throw them, the only one that wouldn't stay thrown was my office. And I unplugged a ton of stuff, did my whole like nerd level protection racket, and made everything go back to working. But we're streaming again on YouTube. I got us back up as best I could, as quickly as possible. And hopefully we sound okay on CPT as well. Okay, so where was I? Because here's the thing. I'm talking about how crazy the plot of all this is. And I'm literally just about to talk about how this is sort of like a mid-season finale with all this stuff with back and forth about Cohen. Cohen's a completely trustworthy guy, that Giuliani himself is like, he's an honorable guy. And then less than 3 months later, 3.5 months later, he's like, this guy's been a liar for years. We've known him to be a liar. Like, well, yeah, because you hired him to be your liar, not your lawyer. That's why his stuff isn't covered under attorney-client privilege at all, because you're engaged in a criminal activity. None of what you're presenting has anything to do with his job as a lawyer. And again, this is the old attorney-client privilege is dead. What kind of world do we live in where a mafia boss can't discuss crimes with his lawyer without some stupid law that if a lawyer knows about a crime, he has to make people aware of it. He's got to turn them in. Like, okay. And again, this is based on the idea that Trump himself is on one level impressed by and jealous of Vladimir Putin's control on all these things. So, Six is in our chat room is calling it lawyer criminal privilege. It doesn't exist, actually. So you'll be happy to know, and again, this goes back to like how many plots does this crazy thing have? We find out after the debacle in Helsinki that the blowback to this is that Friday a tape is released of Donald Trump and Michael Cohen talking. And during the conversation, afterwards, there's all this talk back and forth. Well, who released the tape? And it wasn't the government. They've got no impetus to do it. It undermines their case. So who did it? Who's the person? And by the way, thank you guys for the super chats. You're so lovely. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, WWS. Thank you, Mark. Everybody's donating to the anti-Russian hacking funds. We will not be silenced. And you'll notice I won't be whining about being censored and I'm being shadow banned. Right. So there's this point in Trump's, thank you, Milkman Norm. There's this point in Trump's back and forth with over the news cycle and we about, well, Cohen's dropping this to help himself out, and then other people saying, well, it doesn't really help him because he wants leverage and stuff that he can use. Okay, the only reason this would be him losing leverage, Cohen, let's break this down a little bit while we're getting into the deep plots of Game of Thrones. The back and forth between how Trump and is breaking down this thing with Cohen with on the one hand, did Cohen leak this or did the Trump camp leak this? And then the idea is that the Trump camp leaked this to eliminate some of the leverage that Cohen might have. And Cohen wouldn't leverage because he would lose some of his own leverage. Or he leaked it as a tease of how much stuff, of what he knows, so that Trump knows that he knows some serious, so he'll bail him out or give him a pardon or promise him a pardon, or that he can get some sort of deal or immunity or whatever. The idea that public push to this. Well, first of all, you don't need to release that to the public for any of that to happen. And Mueller's got all the stuff anyway. So effectively, in all these circumstances, especially with the recordings that legally are now open for the use, the general, I guess, the general blow back and forth. It just seems like this ping pong match of nobody would release this because it's not good for either side. All right. Well, first of all, there's a lot of reason why the Trump organization would want to release this and then start undermining him as a liar, so that if they can make Cohen look like he was a mole or that he can't be trusted or that he's a liar, then later on, they can, when more stuff comes out, they can have this, kind of a bump along, response, this refrain to anything dealing with Cohen that says, okay, he's a liar. We've known he's been a liar. He makes up this kind of stuff. All these recordings, there's innocent explanations for all of this stuff, right? And that's not a bad strategy overall, right? the concept, and by the way, Robin, in our chat room, the Chinese symbol in the lower right hand corner is my Chinese name. It's just a bug that YouTube puts on. So if you look at the premise behind either side, why would the information be released, or why wouldn't it be released? There's vacillations on both sides that would explain either a way or either positive. It is an unnecessary. It is the red herring in the Hitchcock plot of all this stuff. It doesn't matter. What matters is what's on the tape and what isn't. And in this particular tape, he sets up a business through Trump's, through Larry Weisselberg, I think is his name, his attorney, and very distinctly says his name. He says, "Our friend David," and people are like, "Is he talking about David Pecker, who runs the AMI, which runs the Inquirer, who is doing the catch and kill stories on Karen McDougal and presumably other women that Donald Trump was having affairs with, who might interfere with his ability to do." It might stop him becoming president and the like. So they were helping him or affect his business. Because ultimately, even before he was deciding to run for president, Me Too being what it is, if Trump was still just the host of The Apprentice, he'd have lost his show by now. There's no question about that. He would have been one of the first to go. Being president is the only thing that actually protected him during that process. And so AMI and the Inquirer's policy of catch and kill for stories for Trump were effectively helping him through that or whatever in exchange for any kind of page 6-y like stuff that he was telling them on the side and, acting as a source and all those kind of things. So the primary, well, we got to take a break. When we come back, the Cohen back and forth in the tape, he mentions the primary architect of all of Trump's subsidiary LLCs within the Trump organization and the guy who was in charge of doing his taxes. He name checks the guy. He doesn't say our friend David like he does with David Pecker. The hard piece of evidence is that I'm setting up this business and I'm doing it through the guy we always set these up through. And we're not going to pay cash. So there's 3 pieces of information in this. There's 3 pieces of information that are very important in the Cohen tape that was released. And none of it has anything to do with whether or not they paid off Karen McDougal and Catch and Kill. The 3 pieces of information are Larry sets up these companies. We always do this. And no, you don't pay in cash. That cements a legal ramification for Donald Trump that is inescapable. We will be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Hi. What do you need? 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 Hi. Yes. Out. Go on, out. No, seriously, I got to do the show in here. Cheese. You're going to make a grilled cheese? Yes. Okay. That's fine. Make a grilled cheese during the show. I think that's awesome.
It's like a cooking show.
It's totally a cooking show now. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Here you go. Hi.
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
I got a gold screw.
What? That's not a gold screw. Give me that. That's the nozzle for my 3D printer. Look at that. Get down. Get out of here. What are you doing?
My grandpa might need it for some of these buildings.
Why would your grandpa need it? I need it.
Why do you need it?
Because it's mine. Yeah. Axe was saying you just broke my extruder. This is for my extruder. That's right.
I Guess what?
Even he
This
knows.
thing, I don't want the camera.
Okay,
right
all
there.
right. Doing a show. Everybody quiet. Remember what the rules are. Yeah, right. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Seriously. We know what the rules are. What are the rules? You know, I'm doing radio. Yeah, thank you. No one can be ruder than to break an extruder. This is true. Okay. Cam, seriously. Nope. Seriously. No. No, I know that. Not very. Okay. Are we almost back, Lady B? Just so I know.
Yes, we're coming up on the last commercial, and that's 30 seconds.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. 30 seconds and then total silence.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, and Lady B says hi.
Hi, everybody.
Get out of here. Shoo. Oh my, I have a second set of arms. Okay. Shh, you're gonna get tickled. You're gonna get tickles. It's gonna happen. Welcome back to the show. This is the House Park Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Now with 100% more arms. For those of you that are watching, Shoo, get out of here. You know the rules. My son is getting a grilled cheese because we have moved the show into the kitchen because that's what happens when the Russians interfere with your power grid. That's so funny. Okay, and I'm just saying, Johnny Million has some competition now. The story that comes out essentially is when Trump's lawyer is name checked in the Cohen. Oh yeah, and Carl in our chat room was saying, "Are you sure that it was maintenance that broke your power?" Yeah, I think we know who threw the switch now. Get out of here. Let's see. So Cohen mentions, in his tape, he that at some point he needs to do this regular show. He's got to do this regular thing. This is what they do. This is the practical aspect of how they run their business circumstance, right? So, and everybody's saying best Hsrpm ever. I completely agree. Okay, do you think Hal's been thrown a little off track? Yeah, you think so? Because I'm managing his 7-year-old all of a sudden while I'm doing the show. It happens. So, the Trump tape itself, when you play the entirety of it, runs. Thank you. The Trump tape itself, when you run the entirety of it, you find that there is there are parts that are relatively excluded. There's a whole show going on behind me. There are parts that Cohen specifically, I think the thing to pay attention to is that there are parts of who's mentioned. I'm trying to look up his name. Maybe the chat room can help me this because I'm trying to manage this at the same time. What's Larry's last name? Is it Weisselberg? I'm confused. I'm like having trouble recalling it because of all the other stuff I'm having to juggle at the moment. So Cohen says our friend Larry. Yeah, Larry. Okay, yeah, that's right. Larry Weisselberg. Weisselberg. Or is it Alan? Alan, thank you. That's why I couldn't find it. I'm looking up the wrong Larry. So Alan Weisselberg. That's my fault. I apologize, the Alan versus Larry, because I have a dancing machine happening behind me. I'm so...
Okay, let's go.
All right. Thanks, Gigi. The show is over. You say vessel, I say Weissel. You say Issel, I say Eissel. Vessel, Weissel, Eissel, Weissel. Let's call the whole thing Trump. All right. So the primary, and then of course my entire studio environment smells like grilled cheese right now. So Alan Weisselberg is this kind of behind the scenes operator you know, a guy who, in general, you know, none of us. I mean, he was one of those people who everybody kind of knew about his existence, right? Up till you know, you know, I don't even remember him really being floated as a concern point. And the entire storyline this week playing out of Don Jr., you know, clearly, as everyone has said all along, that Trump knew everything that was going on in his, you know, with his campaign, that there was no way that Don Jr.'s story about how he didn't tell his dad about it. It was a nothing meeting. It only lasted 20 minutes. There was no aspect of this where, you know, it was quite frankly, a waste of time. As he told Sean Hannity in his heavily coached interview, where they had to go to break because he wasn't doing his talking points right. He had his list of things he was supposed to say. He was even screwing that up. Hannity interferes and says, no, we're going to take a break when we come back. And then suddenly Don Jr.'s answers are all clear because they basically coached him during the break to like, hey, clarify this so we can get you off the hook, right? Meanwhile, you know, there's probably a cell phone under the desk with Trump actually barking orders, you know, you know, during the breaks. The general point of this, and let's see, this is Andrew Mitchell was talking to former United States Attorney for the Southern District, Mimi Rocha, and she said, so what would be the significance if these reports are true about what Michael Cohen is supposedly asserting, which is that that he knows he was present at a meeting with Don Jr. when Trump was told about the meeting with the Russians, and that there were other people present. Okay, not just Don Jr. So it's not a he said, it's that there are a few other people you could bring in, and under penalty of perjury, one of them is going to go, yeah, he said that, I was there. Because if they find out there was a recording of it from the pocket of Michael Cohen, and they lie to prosecutors, they're doomed. So the prosecutors have no reason to tell these people, whoever else was present with Don Jr. and Don Sr. in this room, that Michael Cohen asserts are there. That if they say, no, this was present, you know, while everybody was present, he was informed that the Russians had dirt on Hillary Clinton. They were willing to help us out, and that we were having this meeting. Is it okay? And then Trump said, yes, you've got to go ahead. This was the Cohen assertion that happened on Friday. She says, is that what would be the significance? And Mimi Rocha, the former assistant attorney general for the Southern District of New York, said, Andrea, this is incredibly significant, Rocha answered. I mean, this is huge. If the government can prove that Donald Trump knew about the meeting with the Russians ahead of time, knew at least generally the purpose of the meeting, and gave it the go-ahead, he is smack dab in the middle of a conspiracy to defraud the United States by the process of fair elections with the Russians. In other words, the simple word to explain this is collusion, conspiracy to work with a hostile foreign power to undermine the legitimacy of our electoral process. And there was some nutty Twitter back and forth, and I answered some of it. You know, on my own feed, and I saw a bunch of other people kind of pushing back this idea, like, how come if you can't get foreign help, why is it okay for Hillary Clinton to hire Christopher Steele to talk to Ukrainians and Russians to collude to help this? And this is the angle that Trump has been pushing, and this is also the angle that the right wing has been pushing, is that because these people were foreign, that they were you know, that's collusion itself. Okay, there is nothing illegal about hiring someone, using your own money and campaign funds. Hi, Gigi, speaking into the fridge. That's all right. Hiring your own, you know, hiring someone who's a foreign national, especially if they are an expert in the area where, you know, collusion is occurring or where fraud or criminal activity is happening. You know that someone is criminally involved with something overseas. You, with your own money, or your own campaign funds, hire someone to do opposition research of your opponent, specifically using your own funds, hiring them as an employee, as a contractor, where there is a chain of events where this person is paid a certain amount of money. They are not registered as a foreign agent. They are somebody that isn't specifically, by the way, in the case of Christopher Steele, because they are not at any point trying to influence on behalf of a foreign country. They are simply a former spy, knowledgeable in these areas, hired to do this kind of thing. You pay them to go find out information from connections they used to have as a spy or as a former prosecutor who dealt with any of these kind of things. You pay for that process, and there is a chain of command and a chain of payment that is verifiable and visible. That's not illegal. That's not collusion with a, quote, foreign power. That is sending someone to investigate the potential for criminal or unethical activities by your opponent. The difference is, and it is a huge difference, is that instead of using your campaign funds to hire someone to do this, in the case of the Trump campaign, the Russian government, as an act of election sabotage, is offering not only opposition research on the opponent of one person for free in exchange for nothing. And the other thing is, if they do want something in exchange, like the removal of sanctions specifically or whatever, that is illegal lobbying and taking a bribe, because you didn't offer to pay funds in exchange for a service. You literally took a free service in exchange for what you're going to give them illegally later on. That's bribery. That's a crime. And so the difference between hiring Christopher Steele, who had already been hired, by the way, by the Washington Free Beacon to start this dossier in the first place, we got to take a break, where there is a paper trail and a chain of a hired employee going out to do information searching on a person that you are running against who has businesses in another country that he is, by the way, obviously, clearly violating the Emoluments Clause, and still engaging with those businesses. Sending somebody like Christopher Steele after that is not illegal. Receiving help from the Iranians or the Russians or North Korea or the UAE or Qatar or anything in exchange for political pressure that you will exert later on their behalf, unbeknownst to the electorate, is a crime against the country. It's treason. There is a huge difference between employing a foreign national and receiving free assistance from a hostile foreign power. We'll be back. You're absolutely right, Brad. I agree I should get more subs, Nagura. But, until such time as I can guarantee the show stays on, it's a little difficult. Right. Even if it's later in the summer, I really like it. I've got to have that. When Don Jr.'s on, if you have that, especially later in the summer, I'd like that. Yes, that's right, Brad. I hate it when the kitchen makes me Hugh Greek. So, Hal, do you have a UPS on your system? No, I don't have here. I don't have either any kind of. Are you talking about like a battery backup kind of system? I don't here. I have one at the house, but not at the apartment, which is the problem. Yeah, uninterruptible power supply. Yeah. I don't. Like I said, I have that at the house, but I don't have it here. Time for a battery fund. This is true. I'm moving out of here because I'll be either yes, and thank you, Seattle Suzuki. I'm moving out of this apartment and we're closing it down because I'm going to be in China a bunch and of course on tour. September 15th, we're going to be back in Chicago for another live Hsrpm. So at least that one you'll be able to see. Ha. I don't think it will be the same place. I think it's going to be a bigger place because with more warning, and we already had a really good crowd there anyways. The idea is that we have, if we have a bigger place, they're going to start promoting it this week, but we agreed on it. They're looking for the venue now, but we'll have a full like month and a half launch. Like this week, we're going to do an ad for it that will run Tuesday, Tom. Moving in there Tuesday. So, yeah. And I'm going to be on the road a lot.
40,
yeah. Sorry?
40 seconds.
Excellent.
Will we have one call?
I'm not going to.
That will be there September 15th.
Oh, yay. Do we have a location yet? Do you know, Lady B?
No, not yet. Antonio's still looking for him.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Let's see if the Trump phone call.
Transfer of all of that.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide. Yes, and in all the craziness, I forgot to mention it's Johnny Million's birthday. He's not with us today because he's out celebrating his birthday. I've got a gift for him. Actually, I have two gifts for him because I still have his gift from last year that I haven't brought to him yet, sitting here because he lives across the country. But anyways, we're back. So this is the Trump.
For the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David, so that I couldn't do that right away. I've actually come up and spoken to me, and I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with funding. Yes, and it's all the stuff, because you never know where that company, you never know what he's going to be. Correct. So I'm all over that. And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be what financing? We'll have to pay.
The name check of Alan Weisselberg specifically in there is because our friend David, it's almost as if he can sort of forget about the whatever his that issue isn't. He knows it's not as important, but the Alan Weisselberg fact and the fact that he actually has a he needs to name check it. He says Alan Weisselberg, and I need him to set up the company. It establishes, again, those two things, that this is normal, that Alan does this, that Trump knows that Alan does this. There's a great, many of you know that my love for the movie Fletch, for example. And in in the case of Fletch, there are a lot of moments in it which it seems like, Trump is there, where Fletch is playing dumb in all these situations, where he's having these, these issues where he he goes like, you know, when he's at the counter, you know, talking to this, you know, the woman at the airline, and he goes, you know, he's like, you're all checked in, Mr. Tanwick. And he goes, I hope nobody's sitting next to me. He goes, no, there's somebody sitting next to me. And he goes, oh, who is it, Mr. Singleton? And she goes, no, it's, the name's Kavanaugh. And he goes, oh, Morris or Pierre? And she goes, no, it's Sally Ann Kavanaugh. And he goes, oh, Sally Ann. She goes, as a matter of fact, you purchased the ticket for her. And he goes, that doesn't mean I want her sitting next to me, doesn't it? She goes, sorry, the flight is full. She's transferring out of Provo. And he goes, Provo, Spain? She goes, no, Provo, Utah. And he goes, Utah, great. Well, by playing dumb, he's established a bunch of things. He's established that Alan Stanwyck bought the ticket for his wife, that they are, you know, flying together to Spain or to Brazil together, to go into South America, that he paid for the ticket, that they're sitting next to each other, all this stuff. All right. So by playing dumb, he establishes things that you kind of even miss. It just seems like it's silly, you know, like he's just, you know, why would he even care? But when you're writing a story, especially a news story, you want these responses, right? You want these like, you know, you want these kind of pieces there that when you're going to your editor and you say, okay, I know this and I know this and I know this, he'll go, okay, who's verifying this? What source do you have verifying it? And in the case of that story in Flesh, a kind of little anecdote, technically speaking, a representative of the airline has confirmed all these details for him while looking at a computer with that information still on there, right? It's incredibly important to the, you know, to the narrative and the creation of the story, and to make sure that his facts are straight in the story, right? So in the case of Michael Cohen surreptitiously recording Donald Trump, unbeknownst to Donald Trump. By the way, Donald Trump has a history of taping people himself. So there is every reason to believe that Cohen believes that Trump selectively releases clips of recordings to make other people look bad, and is worried that at some point he might cover his own butt. Because at this point, remember, they thought they were going to fail, but that Trump might be in some big trouble for messing around. And some of these people were aware that he was, you know, fooling around with Russians and all kinds of stuff. And if they got caught on the receiving end of this, it would be particularly bad, right? So in the case of you know, Cohen taping, it could have very well been that Cohen knows Trump tapes people and is co-taping him so that he's not selectively edited later on. And at certain points, so that it's clear in his recording, in case Trump tries to dump this stuff on him later, he's name-checking certain people. And he doesn't name-check David Pecker, who we assume he's talking about from the Inquirer, which, you know, I would have so much trouble covering this story. I would be completely buttheading the entire just delivery system of just going, I mean, one of Trump's attorneys who's been responding to these accounts, his name is Mr. Harder. I'm just saying, it's almost impossible. So in the case of, you know, Cohen, why he would record, you know, is he untrustworthy because he's recording? This might be just a guy who realizes that either Trump might hang him out to dry through selective, easy, Carl. Trump may actually, you know, selectively release stuff later on to make Cohen look worse. And if he's the only one with a recording of it, Cohen knows he's done in. And while it's not permissible in a like a criminal conviction or what have you, it could be used for blackmail later. And it's certainly in the court of public opinion and in a civil case can be very damaging, right? And it's also awfully hard, especially if you release stuff to the public, as far as poisoning the jury pool, which Trump is absolutely comfortable with. You know, it's incredibly valuable. So there's every reason to believe that Cohen, knowing this about Trump, is starting to record, or has been recording, or always records his stuff with Trump, because he's aware that he doesn't want to be caught empty-handed if something leaks, right? So, or if Trump decides to use that decides to weaponize other recordings, right? So Trump has always done this thing apparently with his phone. It's exactly the same thing Michael Cohen did. There's no reason why one of them didn't learn it from the other. There's every reason to believe that Cohen might have gone, you know what you can do, Mr. Trump, is your phone works as a recorder. Just leave it on the table. And that, right. So needless to say, what actually happens in that recording? The stuff that everybody attaches to is, yeah, they caught and killed a story about Karen McDougal. There may be a campaign finance issue in this. There, and there may be ways rich people skate these kind of things all the time. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, but you can certainly plead stuff down to next to nothing if you have a good enough lawyer. If you go, you can parse words and all this stuff. But if the message is not for prosecutors, but for investigators, that's the hitch. That's the big one. Because in the case of Alan Weisselberg, it is very much a possibility that that name check that Cohen is doing in that situation is, and why it's released, is specifically to open the door to get Alan Weisselberg on the stand in front of a grand jury to comb through Donald Trump's tax returns, which he prepared, and not just the tax returns, because I think we focus on those, and the idea that Trump would commit to tax fraud, his base hates the IRS to start with. So there is a whole lot of, thanks, Carl. I know we're in the kitchen, but must we have words out? That's hilarious. In the circumstance where his Alan Weisselberg can definitely break down the taxes of Donald Trump and his tax returns and whether or not there was fraud committed or tax violations done in that or whatever. But the truth is, Donald Trump's followers won't care. They hate the IRS. They think half of them are lean sovereign citizen anyways and believe that the IRS is a completely illegal entity, right? They talk about abolishing it every time. One of the best ways to punch their way to the top in a primary is to talk about getting rid of the IRS altogether, right? So if Trump is busted for tax fraud, they can just plead complication, refile. There's all this other stuff. So what's the big deal? What's the scary part in all this? Why the name check of Alan Weisselberg if, in fact, they know that in a lot of times with taxes, they can go, we weren't trying to hide that. That's just a mistake. And then okay, well, you can refile and do exactly what they did with security clearances with Jared Kushner, right? What's the big hang up? The big hang up is Alan Weisselberg incorporated all of Donald Trump's subsidiary LLCs for every payment that was made. He knows how the money went in and how the money went out. So even if they go, it was a mistake on our taxes not to declare what that was, any criminal payoffs, acts of bribery, blackmail payments, Hastert level, payments of blackmail and shuffling of charity funds, campaign funds, companies being paid with other companies' funds to hide them, money laundering itself. Weisselberg knows that stuff. The taxes are not that big a deal, especially when it comes to his followers. But the real criminal activity that is potential in what Alan Weisselberg knows, and because you find out these companies that are subsidiaries, you also get their account numbers. And the money that is in those subsidiaries that they draw from through other sources that pay for stuff, that's it. That's the big, and that's why the name check of Alan Weisselberg in the Cohen tapes, in my opinion. We'll be back. It's the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Not bad for a show where I had to carry the computer into the kitchen and unplug everything. Phew. They've been drinking that Kool-Aid willingly, and then they have their moment of clarity when they're choking to death. Yeah. How you know the word salad was not about you, right? I do now, Carl. Yeah, but I was just checking. Because I was, I'm getting on these rants, and it gets real dense, the amount of stuff that's going on in this, and it's hard to keep track of some of it just in, and explaining it, but also like the added heavy lifting of like the show was going awesome and then the power died is hilarious. But it's interesting that it happened in the last show in this place. It's life of the fate saying, hey man, get out of here. This is not the right place to be. I need to have fiber run to my house. Yeah, they don't have that here, or they just put it in, but they don't have boxes for it yet. They literally just did the wiring, but the service isn't turned on. I'm going to be gone anyways. Thank you, Denise. I try. What's in the pink jar? Oh, it's not a jar, actually. Hold on. That's why I have it. It's a mason jar. Get it? All right. There you go. When I'm cooking, that's how I measure my cooking stuff or whatever. And then pardon?
Last commercial.
Last curtain? It's curtains for you, pal.
And we have Dave, San Francisco, and Ron from Michigan.
Okay. We'll give them a try. Let's do them in that order. I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know if anybody in the chat room is going to be able to hear them very well, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. Who knows?
Yes,
Could
fingers
be. Who knows? Something new. All right. It's so wobbly. Now, not to be funny, but today is like Wayne's World feed. It totally is. Party time. Excellent. Witchcraft mason jar measuring cup. Right. Power surge. Thank you, QAF Zone. I'm at my best when I'm having to just carry gear in the living room. Yeah, we'll talk about less after this. Welcome back to the show. Always wanted to tempt fate. I think it's important to try and take a call in the middle of, a constant and never-ending technical difficulties. Who do we have, Lady B?
We have Dave from San Francisco.
Dave from San Francisco. Excellent. Hey, Dave. Welcome to the show. Oh, nice try. I see it. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the database was privatized, and little did the state of Maryland know that the company that they had privatized it to had been bought by a foreign entity, and oops, oh golly, it turns out it was a Russian oligarch that owns the database, which handling DMV voter registration.
Right.
So basically, the entire state of Maryland's data, and this would be their official data, whether their driver's licenses, the registration of their cars, their voter registration, has been basically privatized to a Russian oligarch.
Yeah.
So it's one of these amazing scandals. You hear the Sean Hannity's, Rush Limbaugh's, and whatnot claiming that there's no ties. How can they claim there's no ties?
Because of it was an opinion piece, but everybody got nervous about it, and I can see why. Where they were talking about how people, it made everybody, really nervous to read it. But the idea that I think the title of the story was that the votes were changed by the Russians, and no one is talking about it. And I appreciate the call. They can't hear you on the stream, so I'll kind of paraphrase what you're talking about. But the idea that 500,000 Illinois voters had their voter registration information stolen by the Russians. To wit, Republicans will say, "How can you steal something if it's still there?" Because they're the metrics on them were all taken by Russian hackers. Okay, let me explain to you really simply why that's horrible and why it's not okay for any Republicans who are confused about why it matters that Russians get our voter data. Not that the GOP cares, because they put the information of every voter in the United States that they had access to, which is about somewhere in the order of 180 to 250 million, pieces of information. Like I think 150 million registered voters, and then a bunch of unregistered or independents or what have you mixed in, people who are going to turn 18. Details like that were all stored on one particular database. And the GOP left it on an open server for 4 days. Remember that footage of Mitch McConnell where he was smiling like a moron with his wife in these videos, and they were just posted on YouTube to a nondescript channel? And everybody was like, haha, isn't this hilarious? We found this footage and this is embarrassing. Well, the reason they did that was because McConnell cannot coordinate with a super PAC. So what they do to not coordinate is they put up this free, copyright-free material on a YouTube page of him for campaign ads, and then they just leave it there. All the footage, the raw footage. Ted Cruz did this too. You leave it on a channel, and then that channel's info is sneaker netted, is walked over to somebody at the super PAC by somebody who works in the campaign. So there's no paper trail of this occurrence. They just do it verbally. It's the same thing that Manafort was doing with the password email thing that he went to jail for, essentially. Don't send an email, you'll get busted. So what you do is you write an email, leave it in the draft folder, give the person you're communicating with the email address and the password for it, and then they open that account on the other side, and they've never talked back and forth, right? There's never any written paper trail. It's just like, no, I was just drafting stuff. I never actually sent it. You did send it because they read it by logging in. Now, this only works if people are stupid enough to think that they can't see where stuff is logging in from, or that people haven't checked. Like when you get up to the Mueller level, they know these things. Okay, so in the case of the voter data stuff, not only is there manipulation of people's voting choices and whatever, and they can start looking at people's voting records and who they voted for, and whether they voted in the last election, but also where they're geographically located. In some cases, in this information, like your whole, all or part of your social security number is often attached to it because they find it through other sources and they put that together in their own private records, right? So they take this, and then they put the hackers get that information. Then they can target you on Facebook and other stuff, and they go, this region, they're very pro-Democrat or they're very pro-Republican, but they're for the wrong Republican that we don't want, or they're for a Democrat in this case. And we want to manipulate them so they either don't show up to vote, which is the primary, the easiest thing. Just dampen the voter turnout is the important thing. And they do this through many sources. But the primary one in this case, where they got the voter information of 500,000 Illinois voters, whatever, is used for segmented targeting of all these different people. The problem with this overall is, if you'll recall, during the 2000 election, right, during parts of the the provisional ballot aspect of things. Remember, we hear all about these groups of people, human beings. These human beings who would come up and they would show up to vote. The same place they'd always been. This is their regular polling place. They always go there. Everything's good. And then ultimately, can I help you in the fridge? Thank you very much. Excellent. Love you. My kid is back in the fridge because we're doing the show from the kitchen. People would show up at their regular polling places, and what do you know? Their gas bill or their ID or whatever they used did not match their registered address. by one factor. You know, that it said street instead of avenue. It said Wilson Place, or it now says Watson Place instead of Wilson Place for their address. The number was off. These kind of things, and in doing that, these people had to vote with a provisional ballot, and then you could throw it out. And by the time they got around to counting it or deciding that it was actually legit, it was too late. The election had already been decided by the Supreme Court. And we went through this before. So there's two aspects of the Russian antagonist. And this, I want to leave you on this, and you can think about this all week until we come back next week in a better environment. Is that, and remember this, if Donald Trump, this is like climate change. People go, I believe climate change is real, but I don't believe that humans have anything to do with it. Then why aren't you moving cities away from the river's edge and the ocean's edge? Because they're going to fall in. You don't really care. The same thing is true of voter registration stuff. If and when you're worried that the Russians are going to mess with stuff, but they're going to help the Democrats, according to Donald Trump, why isn't he trying to stop them? If they're going to try and affect our election for anyone, why is he not trying to stop them? That's the end of the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for dealing with our technical difficulties this week. Hopefully we'll have better power and everything next week. You guys are wonderful. Thank you, chat room. I'm going to stick around for about a half hour on YouTube to answer questions and talk to you guys. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We'll see you next week. Hold on. Thanks, baby. I tried. That's right.
Are you done?
Almost. Yeah, hold on. Lady B, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lady B. We're signing off. Bye-bye. Yeah, so post-show. So while food is being cooked in the background and stuff, we're going to do about a half-hour post-show. If you guys could let me do that for a little bit. Thank you very much.
Can I be in the post show?
No, you guys.
Can I show with you?
You can say hi, but then yeah, here. Hold on. There you go.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, hi. What's happening?
Come here, we're doing your cow.
Your what? Are you guys watching Dr. Paul?
Yes.
Oh God. They watched Dr. Paul, and my mom's a nurse, and so she's gotten Camden into Dr. Paul. Shoo, go watch your show.
And
Love you.
Dad always makes posture.
Well, it's because it's all it's about.
The only thing it's about is pus.
I know, it's a whole show about pus. Design a model full of pus. You got to pulse his book. Maybe he'll be a doctor. It's entirely possible he'll be a veterinarian or something. It would not surprise me at all. But he's so awesome. Camden, not Dr. Paul. Dr. Paul's lovely. I don't have a problem with him. Yes, I'm not on timeout. There you go. Well, good. I'm glad you're not on timeout now. Dr. Paul robbed Dr. Peter. Wonder why Camelo's perform he chip off the old block. Yes, this is true. Short-lived effort to impeach Rod Rosenstein was so without legs. Gary Sinise is going to play it in the movie. Oh, cold-blooded. That's ridiculous. Well, all right. Let me get a beverage, and we'll lock in on this round 2 on this beverage. Oh, I lost my other straw. Thank you very much. Let's see. Yeah, sippy cup time. Yeah, sorry, Lab Rats is gone. I apologize. Let's see. Okay, couple of things post-show. 15th of September, we're going to do another Chicago meetup for Hsrpm, which would be awesome. That's the night I'm doing a show in Milwaukee. I think that's the night I'm doing a show in Milwaukee. I am up in Wisconsin. And, exhale. Just show's over. Now I can just talk to you guys. So much easier. I could do a show called LA Brats. Yeah, it's on E. Yeah, First Man's exciting. It'll be Summer's new favorite movie. September 15th, Chicago. There will be at some point they'll announce the location. They're still looking for it, Lady B said. So, but we've settled on that date, and it will be there or whatever. And then I'm going to be in I was supposed to be in China all month in August, but I'm actually only going to be gone from the 10th to the 23rd, which is 2 shows, I think. It might be 1 show I'm technically missing. I think I want to say it's like or 1.5 kind of thing. It's like this weird overlay of, you know, not quite 12 days. So yeah, so the 10th to the, so technically speaking, the 11th and the 18th, I won't, I'll either be doing the show from China or having a fill-in one of those days. I'm going to try everything I can to be able to do the show from there. If the internet gods are smiling upon us. The Carol Burlabrat show. Really, Carl? Like, everybody has to reach for this? Let's see. Les Moonves stated that Trump helps rating. Yeah, I mean, Moonves has always been a weird, you know, he's presided over CBS for a very long time. And Sharon Gless talks to some degree about, about how he is and how, and what Ileana Douglas has said about him sounds like right in line with some of that stuff. As for Chris Hardwick, I know I've met Chris a few times. I don't know him. I got called about him because they were asking for comedians to have a comment on him, and I honestly didn't know him well enough to know either way. I think it's weird when people's relationships are Monday morning quarterbacked outside, and especially by somebody who left or whatever. It's always icky, and I think it's a different category of stuff if you feel like in a relationship was bad or emotionally abusive versus physical abuse and all kinds of stuff like that. Like there's all kinds of, it's far too mixed up to compare that in any way, I think, to the Harvey Weinsteins of the world, what Chris was accused of even. And I don't know contextually and emotionally the other stuff that may have gone on before or after that, because you only really heard, one story of that, and the other person has to tiptoe around their response to it. To come back forcefully against those kind of things is in and of itself can feel like an admission of guilt to some people. If you're angry or defensive, you paint yourself into a corner. So again, not knowing him or the circumstance, that part of it, the emotional impact aspect of that relationship, part of it, it felt hinky. And I think a lot of human beings in general have relationships. I don't feel like I've ever been in a relationship where any of that stuff would ever come up, where anybody would say it. Let me just say this. I've never been in a relationship where I've ever done anything like that. I've dated people that I found during the course of dating them would say stuff like that without any reservation, even though it wasn't true. And that's why you break up. You know what I mean? So that's the weird part. That's the thing. What happens in a circumstance where you find yourself, I think they hired Chris back, and I think, they did their investigation and they hired him back. I think that's the reasonable thing to do. Like I said, I've never interacted with Chris in a way that he was anything other than gentlemanly and friendly. I never got a read from him that he was, not that I would. Nothing about him ever struck me like that. I mean, that's the old thing, like a good psychopath can fool anybody, but that doesn't mean, there was meaning to that, or, that's meaningful, or that's the fact. The fact that some of the men who have done this vile crap have continued to work makes me stabby. Wow. Okay. Well, some of the men who've been accused of this kind of stuff have continued to work. Can upset you. That doesn't mean they actually did it. And that's the question. That always is the question, right? He wasn't fired. He was about to be replaced by Yvette Nicole Brown, who has been on the show. Let's throw magnet words in the first so we can simulate a Trump tweet. Yeah, I mean, I'm not close to the Jeffrey Tambor situation, and I'm not an Arrested Development fan per se, so I really haven't been. YMB was a replacement for him on the compounds. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's been the response with Al Franken as well, because you find out that, like, the picture he took and the stuff that he talked about with her, there's pictures of her doing the same thing with men on the same tour, grabbing that country singer by the butt and that kind of stuff. She obviously didn't ask permission for that. She obviously did it while his back was turned, while he was actually performing, those kind of things. And if the shoe was on the other foot, it would be if you isolate one of the people. Other women came forward about Franken saying that he groped them. He was not under the impression that he groped them. They were saying that he was touching them, like he got side boob while he was taking picture. I've literally been taking pictures with groups of people where I felt someone rest their breast on my hand from behind. Now, it was the back of my hand, but still, if I was just doing this or whatever and had no idea what was going on, like there'd be pictures of me like that. Luckily, I'm fairly aware of that. But if you're not, because you're doing lines, and like I said, we've talked about this before. Like, you know, I've been in lines of that's funny, Ginger. There've been lines, you know, of people, and I've talked about this before, where as the person getting the picture, you know, getting pictures with other people, they have done stuff to me because my hands are tied up because I'm, you know, got my arms around their shoulders, right? So there, you know, there is that is always it requires some legitimate patience. I trust Ronan's reporting on Les Moonves. He worked for 8 months on this story. I don't think there's any reason to question Ronan's reporting on this either. The problem is Al was running in what's a relatively conservative district anyways. So he won by a thin margin. So it would be hard for him to run again without that being, you know, a weight used against him. And the Republicans would simply just have to run an anti-choice religious conservative woman, and she would get the margin, even though she would be worse for women's rights than he would, you know, any perception he would. That I completely agree with. That's the rough part. Is, and I will just say, and I like, because some of this stuff is still playing itself out, that I have been in the past passed over for work, or dismissed as, you know, or whatever, by people who have been swept up in this Me Too stuff. And it's nice to know that you do not appeal to their sense of what talent is and what entertainment is. Like, when you find out that these people who passed on you were creeps, it's kind of a good feeling. I mean, I'd rather be working in some of those capacities. I wish those gatekeepers had never been there, but it's nice to know that in the process of, like, you know, that actors and comedians and everybody, you know, they go, man, that was a good show. I tried really hard, or my audition was awesome. What the heck is the problem? Well, they just don't think this is the thing. And then you find out that the person who didn't hire you is actually a cretin. There's kind of almost a relief, like, oh, it wasn't my performance. This person's just awful. And apparently I don't appeal to awful. Let's see. we have to pause before jumping to judgment, like with James Gunn or Aziz Ansari or anybody, until all is brought to light. I think that's very important. I mean, here's the thing: we're literally walking a new line, and there will be mistakes made in both directions as we, as a society, figure out how to maintain the balance between normal human interaction, which is messy and complicated, and overt attacks on people because of their gender or because of their susceptibility to manipulation for employment or any of the other things. So there's a window there of reality, and a lot of what happens in humanity falls in that messy zone. And as we weed stuff out, we're not going to get it right all the time. And again, this is why we have the innocent until proven guilty as our primary legal standard in the United States, because we realize that in the messy part of this, it is better to err on the side of protecting the innocent than it is to create guilt where there is none, because you cannot undo one of these things. So we will, over time, I really believe, eventually have this interaction where we move out of you can't even make a joke, where we can get back to making sexual jokes in open company without everybody becoming hyper prudish or taking it personally. But we're in a transitional period, and so that takes work, and it's okay that it takes work during periods of time like this. In the same way that as we went through different civil rights movements or what have you, where there was this real genuine social transition between what people were experiencing on the one-to-one or in a business situation, where the proper way to articulate someone's quote-unquote politically correct label in a circumstance went from being very distinct to fluctuating to a little bit more distinct to clear definitions of this is outside the bounds. Anywhere in here is sort of up to everybody. There you go. You can make jokes, you just don't. And a problem is a lot of the standard is being set by people who are socially inept, or quite frankly, in the word of Carrie, vile. Yeah, you need to be cautious now. So the vile assholes are removed from power. We have to teach young boys to respect young girls because social conditioning is all warped now. I don't know that it's warped now. It's been warped before. And it's a lot of the people you're talking about are adults that have been adults for a long time. But there is a very much a danger to setting up a situation where the world is you present a concept that there are villains everywhere. One of the things you want, one of the things you would really like. Yes.
Can you go to the gym?
Yeah, sure.
Gigi.
You need shoes on though.
I need my shoes and Dad said we can go to the gym.
So the
Let's go. I'll get them. Why don't you get ready while I get my shoes on?
So the idea is girls and boy lines, girls and boy toys. It's all stupid. No, some of it can actually be a hormonal predilections, and it's okay. It's not all stupid. It's the stupid part is when it's a definition as opposed to an acceptance. That if a child, if you got generalized things where children want that kind of stuff, and if female babies are drawn to faces, male babies are drawn to movements, there's going to be extrapolation of that, and it's not a bad thing. If we raise genderless kids, things would be better. There is no reason to believe that is true. There is no such thing as genderless kids. There just isn't. You can try not to enforce odd emotional standards, but the idea that you make their gender meaningless is ridiculous. Yes?
Just so you know, we're going.
Okay. Love you. Have fun.
if you hear like us turning the knob,
Yeah.
you'll know it's us.
Okay.
I'm gonna do that so you know it's us.
Thank you, my love. Thank you.
So you don't know if it's someone else.
Yeah, sneaking in on me. I appreciate it.
So nobody so you don't think it's the police when you're being loud.
That's right. Awesome. So boys and girls creative vision skills really do try to break them down, at least in elementary schools. I mean, you can both you and Carrie are basically saying something those are gross generalizations in each thing, and some have obvious standards and others don't. What are you doing? You good?
Yeah.
Are you?
I might want to have if we're taking breaks, I might want to listen to some music or just like get a drink of water or
Just leave that here. You'll be fine. You don't have to take all right, you can take it with you if you want. Okay. Can I have a kiss before you go? Can I have a kiss before you go? Hey, headphones. Come here. Can I have a kiss before you go? Thank you. Whoop. There you go. All right, have fun. Is Camden working on the fuse box? Yeah, he's got a penny and he's operating it. Trying to assert a genderless standard on children is just, I think, as much a violation of their humanity as enforcing strict male and female stereotypes would. It is the exact same mistake in different clothing. And in, like that report came out, and I made a bit about it in my new show, a new study that I've been working on, where states where they make, they've made attempts, the European states where they made attempts to make things completely genderless, where they want complete equanimity between the sexes, means feminine roles and males to take on traditionally more masculine roles. When you're allowed to do whatever you want, the tend that goes in that direction. It's not a social push. You're like, you can do whatever you want. You can go into nursing or football, or you can go into whatever these kind of traditional roles are. When they do that, the tendency is that people go, almost immediately towards more the traditional expectations, which I think is a better word for it. The expectations about, the hormonal difference between people. Hi, Julie. Welcome back. If that makes sense. European. All right. We're all equal, but not the same. I think that's a great way to put it, or whatever. There's a very, I think what we've taken is the sort of androgynous movement and kind of defined it as non-binary or queer as just a label shift. It's a distinction without a difference in a lot of cases. And in a lot of the communities, it seems like more an assertion of the B in LGBT than any other, because of the natural fluidity of sexuality. That's right, Lord Dracul. The key is not to impose specific gender roles nor forbid them. Let the kids take the role they feel authentic with. But it's also, you have to avoid too much leading in that regard, because there's a tendency for leading in the it's not enough to go, we're not going to enforce traditional gender roles for people, but the answer often is, we will discourage it actively. A 6-year-old story about a Texas gunman after Carl mentioned an actor who recalls the alert. That's entirely possible. I'm both straight and gay. How so? Why would that be true? I was lucky because my parents didn't voice the thing on me. I liked running around, climbing trees, playing with Legos, trucks, and the like. So technically then, you know, I didn't feel that either. I mean, I wasn't, there was no real like, hated Barbies and dolls. Okay. It's a very strong feeling to have about Barbies and dolls. Either way, I mean, this is, you know, again, we are in a traditional or in a transitional, sorry, period in our culture, and that's important. And it will not be. How are dolls super boring to play with? Hated them too, wasn't that girl? Right. The kung fu grip. Yeah, they had a Barbie doll with a kung fu grip. But I only had them to fit in with the other girls on my block. All right. Well, then that was not social pressure from society. That was because the other girls on your block had that natural inclination in volume, you know, and you didn't, and that's okay. But you know that again, I don't know that that's a societal aspect. That sounds more like, you know, the argument about Lord of the Flies, that left to their own devices, children follow their proclivities to an unhealthy level, and adults' responsibility with their children is to guide them into knowing the difference between an impulse and a character aspect. And that sometimes they overstep that, but that's important. Oh, Carrie, so you lived Lord of the Flies. Let's see. I like reading too much books and more books. Yeah. I met my bestie in 80 when we were 10, and Barbies bonded us. He was a boy, by the way. There you go. It's all about how they market the toys. The do or don't convince one to buy certain products. Yeah, but even the marketing has to talk to you. You know, they've tried like dolls for boys and trucks for girls kind of stuff. Like, we'll make pink trucks and stuff, and they just don't sell. Because that's not how it works. Trucks should look like trucks, and if you like trucks, you'll like a truck that looks like a truck. You won't like it because it's a pink truck. And action figures, you know, if you make them more doll-like, meaning their elbows don't bend and their knees don't bend, they get less interesting over time, and you stop playing with them. You know, we grew up in the 70s, 80s when kids were able to roam free. We rode our bikes to the parks. My buddy, right. My sister was a child of habit of removing dolls' clothing. My mother and I purchased a doll, which turned out to be other sex underneath. Needless to say, she returned it. Well, all right. One of my earliest jokes as a stand-up was about how, you know, the difference between Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy was that Raggedy Ann had to lift her dress to show you that she loved you, which I thought was particularly disturbing. I was like when I was 14 when I wrote that joke or whatever, because if you lift up, you know, she says I love you on her chest or whatever, but you had to pull up her dress to see it. I was like, that's kind of creepy. And that was my attitude about it when I was in 1984, right? Now Child Protective Services would be a gas, Gary. With the accidents and falls I had as a kid, it's amazing I'm still alive. Yeah. Mom only asked my sister and I to wear dresses. It was when we had our early elementary school pictures and holidays. I don't repeat this to Raggedy Ann. All right. Female always hated pink. Seems anyway. Yeah, I'm not a fan either. A children roaming. Children. Oh, I see. A children roaming free on supervised. Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Kentucky. Like it was. We were down at the creek for hours messing around till our parents came home from work. Like there was, I mean, this was straight up abandonment. And it's, it's the interesting thing that, again, this goes towards kind of like the gender conversation too, is that at what point are you designing a situation with your child where you are walking that line between encouraging their natural growth, but also building good character, and allowing them to define their likes and dislikes, without simply following impulsive behavior to some sort of unhealthy conclusion about themselves, which isn't necessarily true, which kids do, you know. And the same thing with, you know, playing freely like, you know, they used to a long time ago when, quite frankly, lots of kids would drown, go missing, get hit on the head, end up in a, you know, supervised in an institution because they weren't properly watched after, and helicoptering around them and making them completely useless as a human being because they, you know, they grew up with somebody always, you know, someone else being responsible for their well-being and their decision making. So it's a, you know, that's the balancing point. I didn't mind pink until 16 or 17. That often happens. That's the, you know, someone says to me pink or blue, I say purple. Don't put me in your boxes. Yeah. How so, Lassie? Won't do the helicopter parenting is bad. I completely agree. These are the, again, that's the extremes, kind of what I'm talking about. I cover that accent with my mustache. Chicago's a whole group of us with virtually no parental supervision who ended our social identities by trial and error. I only dress code in my Catholic school was no gym shoes outside gym class, no jeans and t-shirts with stuff written on them. Right. That was my classic rock phase when Leo Mania and boy bands was a thing. In London, I hate pink. I love green. All right. Hi from London, Ann. Yeah, green is good. That's from the Wall Street children's book, right? Oh, by the way, anybody who's in the generalized area, I'll be singing Tuesday night at the Ultimate Jam Night, doing 2 songs. I'll be there late, though, because I've got Masons before that. So, yeah, there we go. Yay. I'll be doing Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel, and I will be doing Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore by REO Speedwagon, which was my song with my first girlfriend when I was 11 years old. My first official girlfriend. I had crushes and stuff before that. So I'll be there like, I'll probably be on at like 11:15. Hal needs an intern. Just don't tell the school about the road trip. Yeah, right. I had a playground at my Catholic school that was built on the concrete. Yeah. Oh, I started way before that. Like, you know, again, this is one of those things where like when I hear, you know, gay people have talked about like, I knew I was gay when I was 6 years old or whatever. I never had a problem believing that in my entire life because I remember being 6 years old and seeing an adult woman that I had a crush on and going, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I can't wait to do it. I was like, I'm that woman excites me. And I was 6 years old. I very distinctly remember that. Yeah, but that's the idea. Is like, I get it. You know, I mean, doesn't mean kids are sexually mature. Doesn't mean that, you know, that other people get to act on that. But kids absolutely have these, you know, these kind of defining moments, and it should be okay. First crush at 6, boy in my class who was so smart. I was like, ooh, who are you? I get to know you better. Yeah, this wasn't this was an adult woman. This was a grown woman. She was 26, 27. You're supposed to sing Sledgehammer to her. All right. Gastroenterologist. Wow. All right. So when the bestie says I'm at the grocery store and he just knew. Yeah. Very typically kids have sexual feelings much earlier than adults want them to. Yeah, but they're not sexual feelings. They're you know, I would argue that they're, you know, like emotional attachment and excitement feelings or whatever. They don't necessarily translate into quote unquote sexual feelings until later or whatever. It's more like just your DNA barking at you, but it's very different. That's so funny how Alex older. Miss Landers from Leave It to Beaver. Oh, I see. Gotcha. 7. So much better. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Thank you. That's a good one. Beg your pardon. Woo. That one was storing up for a long time. I was trying to actually get that one out. All right, that was good. Thanks. There might be a third one. They usually come in threes. Yeah. That was good. Okay, hold on. There you go. Mine always come in threes. I don't know about yours. Yeah. Hence why I know gay is not choice. Yeah, that was always my feeling too. Here they come. Who's that? Is there a stranger at the door? Who's sneaking in here? Who could that be? Who's there somebody at the door? There's a stranger at the door.
So baby, so I'm a little bit closer. So baby, I'm so strong.
Are you dancing for me? Let's see. Come over here. You have to do it over here. You can't see it.
Dad, nobody can see because you're.
Sorry, I'm in the way. Your nose bump looks really red, but it's okay. It's getting better. Saxophone solo. Get out of here. Okay, that's that. Here you go. It's all you. Okay, love you.
I'm gonna have a
The writer house is my favorite hat, but I have like writer for the
party
10.
right here.
Huh?
Do you have a dance party right here?
You can have a dance party right there. Yes.
That's fine.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
You are allowed to have a dance party right there. As a matter of fact, I insist.
Yeah, are you still doing radio or?
Yeah, I'm almost finished though. I'll finish up.
Is it okay if I can have a dance party while you're doing radio?
Yeah, you can have a dance party. I'm not on radio now. I'm just doing the YouTube post show, so it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didi, get ready for the dance party.
That's right. Dance party at a juice box. What? All right.
Hello.
Rip, yeah.
So good, so slow.
He's gonna learn guitar, but that's another problem. Gawain, why are you speaking Russian?
Emergency, emergency.
Everyone to get from street. No offense, but you gotta type in English, or we gotta remove it because I don't know what's being said. But that's okay. Just use Google Translate. Game win. I'm good, Alex World. Thank you. Cried so much now. And now I know. After the show, have breakfast, Carl. Have a good job on Lenny Camp here. Good music, etc. Oh, well, we're doing our best. Watched Atomic Blonde last night. It's fun. Yeah, that was one of the, you talk about kind of like, well, we'll talk about the gender issues of Atomic Blonde at some point in the future. Your mom's still a nurse or retired? Both. Mom, are you still a nurse or are you retired? She's still a nurse. I do Putin talking to Trump in their meeting. No, I haven't seen that, Julie Carroll, but I'll look it up. I recommend Equalizer 2. Awesome. We went and saw, I like Mission Impossible. Skyscraper we went and saw, which
And we also did you tell them that we saw the Indoraptor?
huh?
The Indoraptor one?
Uh-huh.
You told them?
Oh, Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lost Kingdom. We saw that. That was great.
I love the Indoraptor. The Indoraptor was cool.
It
By the way,
made.
I have a toy of Indoraptor. Did you tell them I had a toy of
I did not tell you have a toy of Indoraptor, but no one will be.
Tell them I
surprised by-
have lots of figures of them.
You do have lots of figures of the Indoraptor. This is true.
No, I mean lots of figures of different dinosaurs.
Oh yeah, you have lots
I
of.
got these.
You do. You have a bunch of dinosaurs.
I have these.
We have.
And I also have this guy, and then I think I was the Indoraptor in the car when I took him to the movie.
Gigi, did you put the Indoraptor in your bag when we went to the movie?
No, I had it the whole time in the movie.
Okay, you have it. You had it.
You gave it to me in the movie.
Okay, you got it though. Or did you leave it in the car when we came home? I see. Okay, gotcha. All right, as long as you have it.
I didn't leave it at the movie theater. I just left it in the
Okay.
car.
Well, good. We don't. We can find and we'll make sure that we have one. Till I get my 3D printer back online, and we can just print dinosaurs like crazy. That's what my extruder you told was from.
You mean your 3D printer that you made?
Yeah.
Are you gonna make a few dinosaurs out of
Mm-hmm.
it? Oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna make every. Ooh, can you make an Indoraptor
Uh huh.
and an Indominus Rex?
Maybe.
You're mad because the Indominus Rex is insane because he broke a door, right? Are you?
Indoraptor is ridiculous.
The Indominus.
Thank you, Greece. Thank you, Pearson from Greece. Print dinosaurs, not guns. Yes, I agree. Carry Fisher
I'm
being
gonna
so
go dance
Yeah.
to some music.
Although the pick up cam and throw that the dinosaurs would be, yeah, it's pretty great. So all the kerfuffle comes awesome okay. Of a meeting that's very important about a movie. Let's see. Sounds like you tripped a circuit breaker. Good luck. Thanks, Matt at the station.
What is
Um,
Dad? Where's
yes,
the place to talk into if you were doing
the recording.
Yeah.
Oh, well, technically, right here. See that little dot? That's what passes for a microphone. It's just a hole in the plastic. But you hit this button, it's the record button, and I think you have to hold it to do it. Yeah, I go to China on the 10th, and I come back on the 23rd. Let me go.
How do I watch?
Yeah.
How do I hear them my singing? How do I hear my singing?
Let's see. I don't know that it recorded it. No. Let's see. I think that's it. I don't know that. Oh, wait.
What did it do?
I'll have to check it. Oh, it might be that one. Well, I'll fix it in a second. Hold on. I can't hear what you're hearing, so I'll have to fix that in a minute. I was really disappointed in Wrinkle in Time. They made a big deal about the female director given such a large budget. Yeah, and it egged, and that's really dangerous. Social media isn't healthy. I'm happy Kelly can live her life. TFA was too convoluted. Didn't use character. TFA? Ant-Man and Wasp was pretty good. Yeah, I enjoyed that too. It was cute. It was a little like episodic element of the Marvel universe. Yes. Oh, The Force Awakens. Yes. Oh my God. Ick. And the Last Jedi at TLJ. I see. Yeah, The Last Jedi. That's absurd. This is what happens. Here's the problem: people who can't write heroes because they don't have any. There's a big problem with people who don't have heroes writing heroes. That's why everybody's been writing villains since The Godfather. Is because because nobody has, any faith in heroes anymore. So I wrote the other day to Deadline was, right now Hollywood is in the hero killing business because it's easier to, it's harder to have heroes than to watch them die. So J.J. Abrams doesn't have heroes. No, he doesn't. I would argue that there's a huge chunk of his generation that doesn't. A lot of people are afraid to have heroes. And it's why some of their stuff appeals to the audience right now too. It's why more people identify with Thanos' view of the world than the Avengers and whatnot. It's why we get, we've been focusing on Darth Vader and Kylo Ren, as the cool points, or we have the Stormtrooper character in.
I got it all hooked up in case you want to listen to any music.
Lovely, thank you.
I got if you want to put on headphones, I got it hooked up where if you don't want to listen to the headphones, you can take that off and push this button and I'll play the same music as I always listen to.
Okay.
Like come a little bit closer, it does the same thing, it won't change it. But if you want to listen to that song, you can push this button and
Perfect.
take it off. If you don't want to listen with the headphones, you can take this off and then I'll just play.
Gotcha. So on the speaker, through the speaker on it, right?
Yeah, through the speaker.
We might have to actually get you a real Walkman at some point because that's pretty awesome.
Guess what? I'll keep it right here in case you want.
Love it.
If you're doing radio and you don't want me, if you're doing radio and you can't come over here, I'll turn you on in case you want.
Love it. Thank you so much. Perfect. He does take good care of me. He's great. My hero is Hal and Archer, the cartoon. There you go. On writing villains to write them like heroes for their own stories. Yeah, that's true. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. He brought me a bottle of water. There's a tendency to believe that when actors are portraying villains, there's a lot of times like, oh, I try to find something sympathetic in that story, like why they feel like they love themselves to do this. Okay. A lot of times that's not true. A lot of times that's not even true in heroic or positive characters. They're always full of self-doubt. But somehow we allow people to play characters, villains with zero self-doubt because the actor is so focused on why they have to be in line with or to support the character's behavior. When actually it's the back and forth, the questioning that makes it, you can make it more interesting. And meanwhile, the hero character is these days especially is almost 100% self-doubt, with rare exception. Which is why I think the best Marvel movie is Captain America, the first Avenger. But that's just me. Peace, Lion.
I found these two lost.
Mm-hmm.
I found those two lost.
Thank you. You can put those in the cylinder, in the silver cylinder. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
I'll find some more to put there. Does that need more? That's good.
I lean towards Iron Man. Tony Stark who's completely self-confident. I agree, but he always makes his own problem. The only problem with the Iron Man storyline isn't the character or RDJ's performance of him, but the intrinsic inability of the writers to create a storyline outside of Tony Stark and Iron Man's creation of technology, where it's like, my own thing has been is my own destruction. I like Black Panther, but I really wish the women characters got more story. They got a ton of story. I thought, considering how the comic book used to be, they definitely fleshed that out more. And my only problem with Black Panther is essentially that it's like this, the story of the Saudi royal family. That this is about a kingdom, a monarchy run, on a kind of an old world system based on the same financial and technological route as a country that found itself sitting on an oil reserve. It would have been cooler if the vibranium they created was through some action that they did, through their own focus, their own creation, but really it was just a meteor that their place fell on top of. It kind of had to be. Maybe not. I don't know. I think there's always options. There's a million stories to tell. this again, this is the whole thing. Joseph Campbell fucked it up for everybody. He's out of the room, so it's okay. Joseph Campbell screwed it up for everybody, telling the same story over and over again because we think that these are archetypal, and then we're creating an artificial archetype by telling the same damn story over and over again. They had to explain why they had all these resources and their people across the world that had been so oppressed. Again, I think what you do is you have a situation where these people themselves somehow have figured out how to make vibranium, not mine it, and it would have solved the entire thing.
Dad, do you need music?
I'm good. Thank you, though. Can I have a kiss, though? You're wonderful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The concern about writing history that I have as an author, finding ways to tell the same story over and over again, but do it in an original fashion. Mm-hmm. So that's the problem. It's not the same story. I think we've come to understand it's like songwriting, that we understand that certain types of songs are played in certain types of venues, and that the structure of those kind of venue-based songs, meaning dance songs or radio pop hits or songs that are meant to be sung in arenas, have a standard that people, when they're in a group setting, like, but they're not the same as when people are singing a song alone in their car to themselves all the time. So you can have a lot more fluidity in those kind of things. So there's an important aspect of saying, yes, this is the way for those kind of songs, but that doesn't mean this song is wrong. But we'll do that with both song structure and with script structure. That's another, this is a whole side show. We don't even have time to get into this. Are you looking for a certain acting job that you want to do? Always. Yeah. But one thing at a time. Yeah, my dream gig is Buckaroo Banzai, because I think he could be the American Doctor Who. But that'll take some doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sherman never got a Buckaroo sequel. There's a belief that the storyline, that Big Trouble in Little China was originally written as a secondary Buckaroo Banzai script and then was altered to make it easier, but that it's basically the same Richter kind of voice. We should let Hal go and play, you guys. That's true. I could listen to Jody talk all day long. Peter Claudia killed Doctor Who for me. Yeah. Can't have everything. Where would you put it? Stephen Wright. And then the Supergirl announcement. It's not Madame Planet, Monkey Boy. Right. Hi, S. Ramos 03. Thanks very much. Hello. I blame Moffat. This is watch the new season. Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go play with my kid. Be well. Hopefully next time I'll be able to do the show without the power going out in the middle of it. But thank you guys for suffering through it with me. I really appreciate it. Absolutely, QF. Yeah. Oh, hi, Christine. Yeah. Bye. Get UPS. I will. Absolutely. I'll have to hook up our the internet. Be well. It's been a good show, even in spite of all the collapse. You guys are awesome. I got to go. So yeah, minutes left. I'm going to be late for my meeting, but just hanging out with you guys. We'll dial in from Serbia next time. Awesome, Julie. We'll be safe. Cam, you want to come and say bye? Cam, you want to come say bye?
Sure.
Okay, he's going to come say bye.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome. Okay, love you. All right. Bye, everybody. See you later.